Hey everyone, in part one of this series, we talked about the trauma and attachment reasons that you're drawn to toxic women. And that included things like how your childhood trauma wired your nervous system to confuse chaos with love, how rescuing became your survival identity, and how early abandonment may have caused you to tolerate manipulation and abuse just to avoid rejection or abandonment. But even after understanding all of this, many men still feel a pull towards toxic, intense, and emotionally unstable women. Why? Because trauma isn't the only force at work. There are deeper, hidden layers that control attraction. Layers rooted in your sexual imprinting, your hormones, your subconscious desires, and your erotic template. I'm Lise Leblanc, and today I'm talking about 7 advanced psychological and neurobiological reasons why toxic women feel magnetic to you and healthy women feel flat and maybe boring. Okay, so let's dive right in. Your first experience with feminine energy didn't come from your first girlfriend, it came from your mother. And if your mom was emotionally unpredictable, hot and cold, overly affectionate one moment and distant the next, maybe even seductive, flirtatious, or boundary blurring, then your nervous system got erotically imprinted on that version of feminine energy. Meaning, love felt like chaos, attention felt like pressure, affection felt confusing, closeness felt smothering, distance felt devastating. So, what did your young brain do? It formed a template. This is what feminine love feels like. Fast forward to adulthood, when you meet a healthy woman who's calm, consistent, emotionally stable, and nurturing, your body goes, hmm, this doesn't feel like love. Something's off. Why? Because she didn't trigger your old imprint. She's too safe, too steady, too healthy. She doesn't activate the pattern that your nervous system was wired to associate to love. So she doesn't feel exciting. She feels boring. But then when you meet a toxic woman who is moody, intense, seductive, unpredictable, your system lights up. Your body recognizes this energy. Your childhood imprint gets activated. You don't think, oh, she reminds me of my mom, or this is like my trauma patterns from childhood. No, you think, damn, this chemistry is insane. Something about her is so familiar, but it's not chemistry, it's conditioning. It's not love, it's the mother wound reactivated. And here's the most shocking part. Until you heal this imprint, you won't just be attracted to toxic women, you will be erotically bonded to them. Even when they hurt you, even when you know better, even when you know you need to leave. Number 2 is the Madonna-Wh split. Now, this is one of Freud's concepts, and it's deep, and almost no one talks about it. A lot of men don't just feel unattracted to healthy women, they actually feel repulsed by the idea of expressing themselves fully sexually with someone they respect. Why? Because their darker desires are shameful, they're intense, primal, animalistic, and repressed. But a toxic woman who's chaotic, seductive, intense, and unpredictable, and in the horror category in his mind, allows him to be wild, free, and fully alive in his sexual expression. So, deep in your subconscious mind, maybe love and lust got split into 2 categories. Category 1 is the good girl, the Madonna, who's respectable, safe, loyal. She's wife material, but you feel like you have to be restrained. So she feels more like family, friend, a roommate, and you can't unleash your sexual desires with her. Category 2 is the bad girl, the whore. She's sexual, wild, emotionally intense, dangerous, and she activates the darkest desires, your full passion, your raw masculinity. But you don't feel safe trusting her emotionally because she's unpredictable. You love how she makes you feel, but you can't build a life with her. So you end up in a painful split. I can either have a woman I love or a woman that I desire, but not both. A few reasons you may have split love and lust like this are maybe your mother was pure, or maybe she was the opposite and was sexually inappropriate or promiscuous. Maybe your father objectified women. Maybe porn taught you that sexual women can't be respected. Maybe religion or culture shamed sexual desires and behaviors. But in many ways, cluster B women temporarily collapse the split because they combine these two feminine energies. And I'll be talking about this in more depth in part 3 of this mini series, so be sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. Also, in my next members only video, I will provide deeper reasons for why this split happens. Number 3 is your brain is addicted to dopamine. And this isn't always trauma based. Sometimes it's just neurobiology. Some men have dopamine driven or ADHD style brains, and they crave intensity, novelty, and emotional spikes. So calm, predictable relationships feel flat, suffocating, dead. Now enter the toxic cluster B woman who provides constant stimulation, drama, crises, emotional highs and lows, sexual intensity, hot and cold behavior. Every fight, every chase, every tearful makeup equals dopamine. And your brain confuses this chemical rush for chemistry, for passion, even for love. Meanwhile, stable women and healthy relationships are understimulating. So it feels boring, like you love her but are not in love, and you can't figure out what's missing because on paper she's perfect. But the thing that's missing is stimulation, dopamine. But you don't need to become a calm, boring monk. You just need a different source of dopamine because there are really only two ways to feel fully alive. And one way is the low consciousness path, which includes toxic women, chaos, addiction, emotional roller coasters, survival mode. And there's also the high consciousness path, which includes purpose, challenge, growth, polarity, adventure, deep sexuality. And a healthy woman with depth and feminine polarity can absolutely give you the fire you're seeking, but only if you can bring your full aliveness to the relationship. You don't need less intensity, you need upgraded intensity. When you build a life that stimulates you, passion, movement, risk, leadership, you won't need a toxic woman to wake you up because you'll already be awake. Number 4 is you're chasing ego validation. So let's be brutally honest here. Toxic women don't just attract you sexually, they inflate your ego in ways healthy women never do. Cluster B women are masters of ego activation. In the beginning, she makes you feel like Superman, like you're the most amazing man on the planet. You're different from every other guy. You're her hero, protector, her soulmate. You get her like no one else ever has. You were destined to find each other, and it feels like magic. You're being worshipped, and it's powerful. And when a woman puts you on a pedestal like this, you don't just feel loved, you feel significant. And that early idealization gives you a sense of confidence, purpose, and masculine identity. And toxic women don't just feed the already huge ego of narcissistic men. They awaken the starving, neglected, invalidated part of men who never got to feel powerful, admired, or deeply seen, wanted, and loved. So you're not a narcissist for craving that. You're human, and anyone can get addicted to the high of being idealized. And boy, do cluster B women know how to deliver on this right before they rip it all away. And once you're addicted, you'll do just about anything to get it back. You'll work harder, you'll show up stronger, you'll prove yourself over and over again. And the moment she gives you back that worshiping validation, boom, you feel alive again. And toxic partners feed it like a drug dealer, making you feel obsessed and addicted. And in the end, you are a shell of the person you used to be, just like a drug addict. Number 5, you're addicted to fantasy. From a young age, many men escaped into imagination because real life didn't feel safe or emotionally fulfilling. So fantasy became a refuge. Daydreams, movies, games, porn, idealized love stories. You learn to feel more in fantasy than in reality. So now, as an adult, cluster B women feel like fantasy brought to life, at least in the beginning. The relationship feels cinematic, high highs, deep talks, intense sex, emotional fusion. It's not ordinary. It feels mythical and magical. But here's the catch: fantasy always has a crash because it isn't built on truth, it's built on projection. At first, you project your dream woman onto her, and she plays along, mirroring you. But then reality starts to creep in, and instead of dealing with it, you chase the fantasy again. This cycle becomes addictive, and over time, you don't just escape into fantasy, you start living there. And this is exactly what happens to narcissists. They start living full time in their fantasy version of reality that only exists in their own mind, where they are the main character and everyone else just has a supporting role in their fairy tale. They're not a real person, not a real partner, just a character to play a part that they need to be played. And if someone stops playing that role correctly, they rewrite and replace. Now, you don't have to be a narcissist to fantasize, but as long as you are living in a fantasy world, you will keep attracting women who mirror, idealize, and love bomb you, and who may turn your projected fantasy into reality for a brief moment, but this fantasy will collapse because reality always shows up to the party. Number six, you mistake emotional unavailability for high value. Let's be honest. Healthy women are usually consistent, kind, emotionally available, and clear about their interests and boundaries. But to many men, that feels too easy. Meanwhile, toxic or cluster B women are hot and cold, unpredictable, hard to read, withholding. One moment they're obsessed with you, the next distant or rejecting. And your brain does something dangerous. It equates this difficulty with high value. Why? Because in our culture and in psychology, rare equals valuable. Hard to get equals worth the challenge. So when a woman makes you work hard for her attention, when she pulls away, when she gives you just enough affection to keep you hooked, your brain thinks, if I have to fight for her, she must be special and worth it. Scarcity plus unpredictability equals artificial high value. It's the same trick marketers use. It's psychological manipulation of your reward system. And toxic women do it instinctively. They manufacture scarcity by being emotionally inconsistent. They inflate value by withholding love and making you chase it. Number seven is repetition compulsion. This is trauma reenactment. It's an effort at self redemption. So, if you didn't get the love you needed from a parent, a part of you is still trying to win that love today. You subconsciously choose women who feel like your mother, for example, because you want a second chance. Cluster B women give you just enough hope to keep playing the game. If I can love her just right, she'll finally love me back. If I don't give up on her, I'll prove I'm worthy. If I can make this chaotic woman stay, I'll heal the abandonment in my past. You're not just trying to fix her, you're trying to fix your story, your past. But you can't win the past by replaying it. You can only win it by breaking the pattern entirely. Okay, so part one was about trauma, survival, and attachment. Part two revealed something even deeper. You're not just chasing toxic women because of trauma, you're chasing the mother you couldn't reach, the desire you weren't allowed to feel, the power you never got to have, the validation you were starved for, the intensity your brain craves, and the fantasy that once allowed you to survive difficult circumstances. Toxic women don't create these intense patterns, they simply awaken them. And until you reclaim these parts of yourself, your attraction and attachment will always be hijacked. But the fact that you're here watching this now means you're no longer trapped in the pattern unconsciously. You're waking up. And in part three, I'm going to show you why cluster B women feel like destiny. We're going to talk about the spiritual, energetic, and polarity based forces at play and how to rewire your system so that healthy women don't just feel safe, they feel magnetic too. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. And to learn more about how to break free from these toxic patterns, consider my toxic relationship recovery program that I linked below.